Hey friends, this is Marilyn from tarotclarity.com. Thank you to my new subscribers. Thank you to my new members, to all my members. Thank you for all of you who watch, fall asleep watching, give me a hype, give me a share, all those things. Thank you for cups of coffee and super thanks, all of those things. I can't thank you enough, so thank you very much. It helps me stay afloat and be able to justify purchasing decks for the satisfaction of this channel. You may have noticed that I do, although I'm dedicated to the historic pip decks, that I have been showing more frequently some cards from some readings from the Rdgs Smith. And there's a good reason for that. My daughter reads Rdgs Smith, and I did create this channel for my descendants, including her and her children. And her daughter, she's teaching the Rdgs Smith tradition. So I don't want to exclude them. There's plenty, there's plenty of pip style cards on this channel. But for my daughter and my granddaughter and my other granddaughter, we're not sure which way she's going yet. She has more familiarity with the Rdgs Smith because those were the decks I was able to buy her in plastic, which is kind of the conversation today with today's video. I don't know why you can buy Rdgs Smith plastic decks for like under $30, but when it comes to a pip style deck, it goes to like 70. It's crazy. So, excuse me. So for the sake of the children, I've been buying plastic decks, which tend to be affordable in the Rdgs Smith tradition. Okay. So I have 3 Rdgs Smith decks in plastic right now. Now, the first one, they're all kind of blingy. Unfortunately, it seems like plastic Rdgs Smith is blingy. And the name on all of them, on all of the boxes of the blingy ones, just say Gold Foil Tarot. That's it. So for this deck, which is holographic, gold foil. For this deck, which is pink holographic, gold foil. And then for this deck, now these two I purchased when I was not boycotting Amazon. If I can resist Amazon, I do. If I need something, I'll make the effort to go get it someplace else. Either in the car or I'll purchase it from eBay or Etsy or something like that. Etsy, excuse me. And so this deck I bought on Etsy, but it also says gold foil. Okay. And what I didn't realize when I was perusing Etsy, I didn't realize it was gold foil. I don't think it said anything about gold foil when I was purchasing it. And I never noticed the bling. You see the bling when you tilt it? Never noticed it. I just thought it was straight up a picture. So here I have 3 Rdgs Smith in plastic decks for the children. And they're all quite different. And then, of course, I have, as a collector, I have like the 1909 Lilybacks, one published by Conrad Steyn over at Make Playing Cards. And the other one is the 1909 restoration, Restored by C, I think it's called, Restored by C. Now, of the two, and here are the backs of each. Now, of the two, I have to admit that I prefer the 1909 restoration deck. Because, and even there's lots of arguments and debate, and I'm not getting into any of it, about which one is a truer facsimile copy. I just like this one because it's clearer. I just like it. And also, you'll see on these cards, I've noticed that there are smudges. There are dirt, right? The deck is over 100 years old. But we don't see those corresponding smudges on this deck. which seems to be overpowered by either the paper choice, which is darker. I don't know, but I just prefer this one. So I'm eliminating, well, I guess I'm not eliminating this from the equation, but for the most part, if I use 1909 Lilybacks, I'm probably going to use the 1909 Restoration because I prefer it better. I'm not arguing with anyone about which one of these is the better facsimile. It's immaterial to me. I just want to use what I like. Okay, so I obviously don't want to use these with the children because, you know, they'll destroy these cards. But I do have it in my mind that I really don't want to get too far from the origin of the deck. Having this one, I think completely misses the mark, but it might attract the eye of a little kid who just loves flashy and pink and, you know, that kind of thing. Certainly this would have attracted me as a youngster. After I was maybe about 7 years old, I think the pink would have really appealed to me. This one, with the hologram, I've had very effective readings with this, so I'm not poo-pooing it. But I think this one scares them a little bit. It's interesting because I did a very effective reading when I call him inmate 163214. His initials are BK, and he was responsible for the Red Rooms in Idaho. Before he confessed and admitted to the crimes, it was like, did he or didn't he? And I did a series of readings on that subject matter, and I have a playlist, okay, on that topic. And one of the questions wasn't necessarily who did it or was he responsible, but what was behind it, right? And I used this deck, and the reading that came through was so chilling, I literally dropped the card because I felt a surge. So don't underestimate, you know, tacky cards because they can still deliver a punch. And then, of course, this other one that's got some mild bling on it, which is also plastic. So I was thinking, well, the reason I bought this one, because it's also plastic, to have them graduate from these images to one that looks a little more serious, despite the bling. I don't know, maybe the bling will be all right. So then I bought this because I figured it's still plastic. You know, I think it was under $30, barely under $30. And I figured we can use this one because, you know, maybe now it doesn't seem babyish or scary. Like this one maybe be a little babyish, and this one is a little scary. I think they're both more sophisticated than this, but they're both a little leery of this. So this one is a little more in keeping. I mean, it's different. The colors are different. We certainly don't have, do we? Let me see. No, we don't have Pamela Colman Smith's letters. It's not her calligraphy on this one that we have here. And her calligraphy isn't on any of the plastic ones. But I don't know. I kind of thought, well, this one is a good compromise, you know. It's not the originals. I'm not going to worry about losing or, you know, them getting anything on these. These I can just rinse underwater and we're good. So that's what I bought them. So, do you want to show? I can show you a few more differences between them. So here, and you all know the differences, you know. I'm doing this as much for myself as it is for you. Okay, well, we're good. Okay, so then I got to thinking, what would Pamela Colman Smith make of these glitzy cards? What would she make of that? I mean, the last thing she knew was the 1910 version with the cracklebacks, because she knew that Edward Arthur Waite recalled all the 1909s that he could recall. In fact, there's only 5 known in existence, which is why we have any of these cards at all, is because 5 just were left in circulation, or 5 people didn't surrender their decks, or for whatever reason. But Arthur Edward Waite recalled the decks, and he replaced them with a 1910 version, which he felt was better in color. Maybe Pamela Colman Smith agreed with him. I think she understood that the 1909 version probably wasn't going to be the best color quality. I think when she wrote to a friend that she had just did a deck in 6 months period of time, and she said it, was kind of a rush kind of job, and that it was going to be published, but the colors probably weren't going to be very good. So I think she was aware that the colors of the 1909 weren't going to be great. And she may have been in agreement with him about redoing the deck in a different color. She might have been on board with that. I don't know. But the last thing she knew was at least the 1909 and the 1910, and there was a tweak in the differences of color. But she never saw this coming, right? She never saw this coming. She never saw this coming, and she never saw this coming. In fact, I think, she died. Well, I know, it's not that I think. I mean, she died unaware that there was a surge in appreciation for her artwork and her tarot deck, and she died a pauper, pretty much. She died basically penniless, and she had no knowledge that her work was ever appreciated. It's sad. It's very sad. So I wonder, I'm going to put it to the universe, what on earth she would make 100 and almost 20 years later. What would she make of the fact that her deck is not only the most popular deck in the world, but that it's been reinvented so many times? I mean, I can't even begin to know how many versions of her imagery has occurred. There's no way to even know. Now, they obviously tweak it. They get kind of far removed from the original picture, I mean, let's see. Hold on. So I apologize because I had to pause and put the decks in their respective boxes, and then I don't remember what my last thought was. But I think I was saying something along the lines of, despite whether or not we prefer to use the Rider-Waite Smith tradition, there's no denying that the woman left an incredible legacy, and she sadly was unaware of it. Now, I don't know what happens when we move on. I have no answers for that. I think something happens. I don't think it's just you pushing up daisies, although we could be. That could be it. It could be. I'm not going to argue with anybody. Whatever somebody believes is just as possible as whatever I believe. But it has been my experience that there is a certain window of opportunity for connecting with an individual. And beyond that, when it feels, or when you can tell, or when you know that they've left, sometimes they're in between whatever it is, and sometimes you can get them back for a brief moment. Sometimes they're just gone. There's no connecting. And in those times, because I never know what it's going to be, I'll ask the universe, let me know, what I'm allowed to know and what I'm allowed to share regarding how this person would feel about this situation, or if the person is still available, to contact regarding an issue that's unresolved for somebody. I always preface my connections with what lays beyond that way. Because in either case, I'll get an answer. All right, so I went through all that to explain what would Pamela Colman Smith make of this deck? This is the one I'm going to use for the grandbabies because it's plastic. It's a little more serious than the others, right? It's not like fancy pants pink flashy, and it's not shuffle's nice, and it's also not scary like they think is scary. Now bear in mind that with plastic decks, and some of you probably know better than I, they're slippery. So you have to be careful. You have to be in control of the shuffle. So I'm going to use this deck to see what the universe will allow me to see. And if by any chance Miss Pamela Colman Smith's essence can be tapped into, and if not, this is the universe, allowing us to see, or allowing me to see, and for us to see together with the cards what she would have made of what she would have made of her legacy, what she would have made of these newfangled decks. And I'm sorry, I know it makes a lot of noise when I shuffle. I apologize. I can't help myself. So let me go off and continue shuffling and meditate, and I'll be right back. Okie doke. I think I've pushed all the buttons just the right way. Okay, to reiterate, what would Pamela Colman Smith, if she's available, what does she think? And if she's not, what would she have thought about what her legacy has become? And would she like these cards, these newfangled kind? Oops, one more shuffle. Front and center, the first card right out of the gate is, ooh, maybe she feels like she'd been robbed. Maybe. I can definitely understand that. That might be an initial feeling. She may have changed her feeling, but, if she's aware, she's aware. She's not waiting for me to do a tarot reading. So if she's aware, of things, she may have gone through an initial feeling of that. Oh, boy, boy, boy. Okay. Isn't that interesting? And this is a well-shuffled deck, so that's very interesting. Oh, man. Wow. So there seems to be a great sense of having been ripped off and loss, and she's not happy. She's not happy about it. I can't blame her. Okay, this is a little more optimistic. Looking forward to the future. This could be how she felt leaving the world, too. She might have felt like she was really taken advantage of. Now, of course, the deck wasn't a huge success or anything like that, but she commiserated that she didn't make as much money as she ought to have. Front and center of the core 9, we have walking away from it. Maybe she had hopes that it would have, been something. Maybe she was sold a bill of goods, like, oh, this is going to be such a hot ticket, and she was waiting for it, but it didn't happen. And it didn't happen in a big way. Wow, what a clear message. I hope I don't push any of the buttons wrong. I'll really cry. Some of you know what I'm talking about. Okay, the bottom row. Okay, so at this point, perhaps it's immaterial to her. Maybe at this stage she could care less. These rows seem to be like in her lifetime how she felt. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see what the other cards are, but maybe this is like at this stage of where she is. She doesn't care. Oh, maybe she does. I wonder if she holds a grudge. Dang. I couldn't blame her. Well, somebody else made out and it wasn't her. Yeah, somebody made out and it wasn't her. I'm not going to call anybody out, but so let me know. I'm going to do the quint cards for her this read, and we'll just see what else they add to the equation. And I must admit, these cards are pretty. They're pretty. And do they photograph with a lot of bling? I don't think they do. I don't even notice it much, even in person. Just at a certain angle, there's like like I think we see the bling in the words up there. Okay, so I think I did all that without messing up the buttons. Okay, so it's interesting. Well, another reason why I like doing quints is because I do take a second look at the numbers to make sure I perceive them properly. Because if I can catch it during the read, that's optimal. And although I didn't catch any errors or anything like that, what I did catch that I hadn't noticed immediately, because we're not using a pip style deck, and sometimes it's hard to make the connections for me since I don't use pictorial or illustrated decks. I use decorative decks, but not necessarily illustrative, right? But we have 3 5s. We don't have all the 5s, but we have 3 5s. So there's a sense of sadness. Where's the other 5? Oh, is this a 5? One of those is a 5. So there's a sense of agitation and depression and sadness, regret, remorse. So that some of that may have been while she was alive, but the question was, how would she feel now? And looking back and seeing this, like how does she feel about it? And I think like her hopes and her aspirations were disappointment with this deck. Like she expected something, like maybe she expected more from the individual, Maybe she expected more from the group, right? Than she belonged to the group, the society of, or the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, or whatever. Excuse me, I forget because sometimes I forget things. But she did belong to an organization, a group, with Arthur Edward Waite, and maybe it was a disappointment to her. We have 2 hermit cards looking back. One looking back here, and I thought maybe this row, after I saw those as a disappointment, maybe in her lifetime, or that she still would remain disappointed. I thought maybe at this stage she just felt like boredom, or she wouldn't care. It's immaterial to her. And this could also suggest immaterial to her. It could. But it just echoes more of the other 5s that we have. So there is maybe some regret. And then we have, a couple cards of male dominance, So maybe maybe it's a thorn in her side. Maybe I shouldn't have brought it up. You know what I'm saying? But she has the advantage of looking at it with a new light, perhaps. And perhaps overall, she has a different type of wisdom, or she's resigned to it. She's let go of it. Now, I don't necessarily see the hermit as letting go. It's like wisdom or having perspective from a wiser vantage point, but it's also a 9. And so it could also be a number of letting go, right? 9 is the end. And 10 is the beginning of something new. So we have these 2 9s, and I think they're the only 2 9s we have. But as it appears here, maybe there's a certain amount of resignation she just let go. But it might be a thorn in her side. She might still be working it out. I don't know how much we're, allowed to know after we're gone. I don't know how it works. I don't know if after she's gone, she found out all this was happening and, oh my gosh, like it's a real bone to pick with her, right? I don't know. I mean, how's about like if we, if when we pass on, we find out something happened, that we didn't know about when we were on Earth. That's an interesting question that we didn't have a clue about when we were on Earth. And then we find out up there, or wherever we are. I don't know if it's a parallel place, or maybe it's not up, or it could be happening in the same room where I exist right now. Who knows? Just in a different dimension. So who knows what we're privileged to know or not know? The question was, what would her essence think of all this? And so I think the universe might know on her behalf that it would piss her off. And that she feels like she might have been cheated. And I can't say I blame her. But then I do want her blessing. I do want her blessing to use, these cards for my grandchildren. I want her blessing. So I'm going to do another read to see if I still have her blessing to use these cards. Give her credit. This is her artwork. It may have been, re-imaged with a computer with fancy colors and bling, but it's still her work. Would she be okay with me using this deck for my grandchildren? Because it seems like it seems, okay, for me, my orientation is that this seems like an attractive thing for them to see this and think, ooh, this is special, or ooh, these are nice, right? So it's a graduation over the the blingy pink one and the blingy hologram one, right? A holographic one. You see how they shuffle? Not bad. You see what I'm saying? So I think, and then I'm certainly not going to have them use my restoration deck, or the ones that are like the facsimile decks. I'm not going to have them use them because they'll destroy them because they're kids. And even if I express how special things are and blah 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 blah, it's people before things, and they're still like 5 and 4 years old, and so I'm not about like torturing a child, and these are plastic, they'll hold up, and I have my reasons. So I want to ask if I have her blessing, or if the universe would allow me to see if I would have her blessing to use this particular deck with the children. One thing I can tell you from shuffling them, they really smell badly, and I know at least one of my granddaughters will be like, these cards stink. So I will most certainly have to put them with like baking soda. I think that's the one that absorbs the smells. I successfully absorbed smells from a secondhand deck I bought that was like super duper stinky, smelly, mildewy. And it worked like a charm. Okie doke, so hopefully that'll work. Okay, remember, despite what Pamela Colman Smith may have felt regarding or knowing that her deck was like such a success and what it's come to be today, and, despite believing what the cards said, suggesting that she felt taken advantage of, or that, she was taken advantage of. How does she feel, though, about a person using this deck, myself using this deck, with my grandchildren? As a nod to her, and, with all due respect to her, of course, but just the fact that they're plastic and then they're, they look special. First card out. Okay, new beginnings. New emotional beginnings. Okay, that's very optimistic. It's like a new generation. Okay. Next card. Ooh. Now, these cards, aren't they so much better than the first few cards from the last read? It's just incredible. This is why I love tarot. Okay, so we have them, go for it, girl. That's what it seems like she's saying. I probably don't even have to do the whole signature spread, but I will anyway, because that was my intent. So maybe what other information might come through in the other rows, maybe tips or advice. And the 4. Okay, well, so that would be go for it, go ahead, new opportunity, take it slow, maybe. Take it slow, we'll see. I'm not sure exactly what that might mean. Ooh, Tower, oh boy. And that appeared in the other spread too. The front and center of the core 9. Ooh, the Hanged Man. So this is a complicated row right here. More card. Let's see what the bottom row gives us. Coming to a rest. I have to be careful because the tripod is teetering with like 1/8 of an inch before it falls off the table. And I moved all that stuff back You would think that I would have plenty of room. That's why I did it. I moved everything like back at least 2 inches. And I dare not push it back further, because if I do, they may actually fall. And I don't want that. So the beginning is like a brand new beginning, new life. Go for it. And then the last card of the core 9 is passing the torch to the younger generation. I mean, I realize these children are probably in the same generation, but this child is a little bit older than this child. And there is a gentleman in the background, if I'm not mistaken, right? There is a gentleman in the background who perhaps passed the torch to this kid. And this kid is teaching this child what that person showed or demonstrated for them, right? So I get the beginning and the end, that there's a sense of passing the torch or go for it. This top row, the first 2 cards, go for it. Definitely. But there might be some hesitation. And there might be some caution, right? Caution regarding it. This is a fall and this is punishment. Or, okay, if we read it as Rdgs, and maybe it's not punishment, but I see the triumph cards of the Rdgs having the same origin stories as the other cards, as the pip cards. You see what I'm saying? So it's hard for me to divorce my understanding of the Rdgs triumph cards, despite how maybe they make it fancy, they change it. Like this is manifestation. So, and this one doesn't look like a trickster to me. It could be a manipulator. The magician card could be a manipulator, but it is a manifestation. I see that. And this one with the halo, he's enlightened, but to me, a person might be enlightened when they're hanging for a crime, because maybe they came to the awareness that they did something wrong. I don't know. But for this row, it just seems like a caution. And that it's not something that'll come, maybe it's not something that'll come quick and easy, that you have to work for it. One thought is that, the Rdgs deck is easier because, what's there to learn? You could look at the picture and you know what's going on, right? But it could be deceptive in that you have to be able to put it together. You still have to figure it out. You still have to put it together. And even though the picture tells, a picture tells those 1,000 words or whatever the expression is, that's true. But I think what this message is saying is, when I'm teaching or when I'm using this deck, don't make it appear as though you don't have to spend time on it, and that you don't have to develop something, right? Here, I think I conclude it the way it began. And here, something come to rest and then defending yourself. Hopefully, the Quint cards will shed more light on that. I have a hunch I understand, but I think the Quint cards would give me more understanding. Alrighty, so as you see, the Quint card for the top row is the Lover card, or Lovers as it's called in this deck. I want to apologize for having to put tape on some of these cards, the Lover card in particular in this spread, and also the World card. Because we've come to a point in time when people just have been harassing tarot readers and reporting us for having vulgar or explicit art on our, And I've been reported once and I lost the appeal, so I'm not risking it because this whole channel is for the benefit of my descendants primarily. So I got to do what I got to do, but I really resent the hell out of it. And I can't wait, and I live in hope and pray that we see a time when we really see a separation of church and state in our government. I really do. But at any rate, and you'll notice, in doing the Quint cards, especially with Rdgs, it gives me an opportunity, and I didn't develop the spread for this reason, but I've noticed that it gives me an opportunity when I use Rdgs to really get a gist of how many numbers repeat themselves, because Sometimes I miss it because of all the illustrations, but we do have 3 1s. And the spread begins with 2 1s. And then it ends essentially with another 1, which to me feels like go for it, new beginning, literally passing the torch, okay? I mean, I'm interpreting the card in the context of the question. I might not see it as passing the torch for another question, but because I'm interpreting the cards to answer this particular question, that's how I see it. And then, of course, with the manifestation of the world, it's just like totally have her blessing, go for it. However, I think she does have some warnings. I think she wants to warn that, it shouldn't be used frivolously, maybe, like for, I don't know. I mean, certainly the dynamic between my grandchildren and I, we're close. I mean, we know there's a loving relationship, but it's not a, partner kind. Well, I mean, it's partners in that I'm their grandmom and stuff like that, but it's not in the context of what the card looks like, right? So it could be, and it's enough that I have to cover, the parts, right? So it could be not to use it frivolously for, and then you'll notice the flow is like the next card is, something not working out so good. So maybe just don't use it for frivolous things, maybe, it's not to be used for, will my boyfriend come back kind of thing. Because there is potential for danger. There is. I think some people, just like with the Ouija board, I've never had a bad experience with the Ouija board. I don't have one in my house, however, but I have used it when I was a kid. I think this is my take on doing things like this. It's all about intent and how you protect yourself. I'm protected. My intent is never, nothing evil is welcome here, But I think that has to be instilled with children, especially if I'm, guiding them, or if I'm their partner in learning tarot. I have a responsibility to them too. At this stage, we're just telling stories with pictures. We're not talking about anything else. We're just talking about telling a story with pictures. That's it. And any flashcards with pictures could be used for writing purposes, for teaching children. I was a teacher, right? So you have them write the story. That's where we are now. Just write the story. Tell Grandma, and if they can't write it, Grandma writes the story. But that's the thing. So there is I have a responsibility, and I have to express it to them too, that it's not a frivolous thing, because there can be harm, and there can be consequences, right? But if you do it in an enlightened way, or you do it, responsibly. I mean, temperance literally meant to dilute alcohol with water. That's what the word means, right? And I think that's the spirit in which it was intended when it was created back in the 1400s too. And it may have been a reference to the wedding at Cana, right? To dilute the wine. So it might be to meet them where they are. And also, as they progress, to understand it, you have to put in some hard work. They may quit. You may be too hard. And that's no disgrace. It may be something they lose interest in. Or it might take. Right? It just might take. In which case, go for it. So I think I have her blessing. But I also think that there is some warning, And by the time she passed away, Pamela Colman Smith, she was a devout Catholic woman. So I think did step aside. And you know, in that Hierophant card, or the Pope card that appeared in the last spread, might have also been a reference to that. Maybe she had regret. I thought of it after I picked up the cards, but she might have had regret because it might have not been in line with her religious beliefs. And also Arthur Edward Waite was also Catholic too. So they may have fallen to, left it a little bit. So she might have had actually, and if I go back and I think about that reading, she might have actually have had some regrets regarding it in the first place, and not just because she was taken advantage of, but maybe because of the legacy, she might not agree with what we're doing. That's a distinct possibility. And I thought of it after I picked up the cards, so I'm glad I have an opportunity to say it now. And I only hope that some of you have hung out here long enough to hear me say that. But I do think she gives me the blessing to pass the torch, go for it, new beginnings, new kids, just be responsible, teach them it's not no frivolous kind of stuff. It's hard work. It may not be for them, but if it takes, awesome. Anyway, this has been 41 minutes. It's a particularly long video for me. I hope you don't mind. Until next time, friends, peace, stay well, be brave, and be kind. And I am going to upload this as soon as I can get it to your regular time. It is already Saturday, about 5 minutes to 11 in the morning, so you probably won't see it until noon. So I apologize that it is a little late, a little later than usual. Bye.